Hello and welcome to this week's Spotlight. My name is Derek and this week we are checking out the Bergara B-14 Ridge SP. So I want to start this video out with a question. How long are the shots in typical hunting in the US? 300 yards and in? 200? Hell, in Pennsylvania, where we are, most of the shots are under 100. And that brings me to my next point. If you want to start an argument on the internet, you talk about barrel length.
It ain't the size that counts, it's what you do with it.
Now, if you post this in a forum, the smart responses will ask things like, what caliber is it? How far are you shooting? Are you hunting or just target shooting? You know, actually go through and determine what barrel length range would be ideal for you. Now, other guys, the sort that shoot off lead sleds, will simply state that a short barrel is useless and reject any logical counter-arguments to that. Truth is, no, you don't need a 96-inch barrel on your rifle. And there are some advantages to a shorter barrel with keeping the drawbacks to a reasonable level. In short, a shorter barrel will sacrifice a little bit of muzzle velocity. In the Ridge SP, this one here is a 308. You can also get it in a 6.5 Creedmoor. And even with the 18-inch barrel that's on this 308 here, you can still get a 150 grain bullet to about that 2,600 feet per second range. A 168 grain bullet, you'd be looking at somewhere around the 2,500 feet per second, and 180, 185 grain, you're probably looking around the 2,400 feet per second range or so. And that's not exactly slow. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of variability with those depending on load and such, but that's still a pretty useful velocity. There is also an advantage with a shorter barrel, and I can demonstrate with this dowel rod here, because if we simulate a long barrel with this dowel rod and I move it just a little bit, you can see how much this tip moves. However, if we break it in half and I move it the same amount here in my right hand, this doesn't move hardly at all. There's less flex in this than there was when it was twice that length. And that's just a dramatization of barrel harmonics. The same sort of thing happens in your barrel, albeit at much smaller scale. So a shorter barrel will have a stiffer profile than an equal length longer barrel, which is good for accuracy. Now, 18-inch barrel for a 308 or a Creedmoor is very sufficient for close, getting on for medium range hunting, even with the slight losses in muzzle velocity compared to something like a 24-inch. That bullet's still trucking along pretty good to hit the target in the first place and also have enough energy left over to do what it's supposed to. And the obvious advantage is that it is compact and very easy to handle. At 7.2 pounds, I wouldn't exactly call this thing a feather, but with the sort of medium semi-weight contour barrel, it's a number 5, it is still very nice to handle. So even though it's heavier, because it's so short, it feels nicer to handle than a 7.2 pound rifle that had, say, a 24-inch barrel. And I'm actually happy that they chose a number 5 contour on this. It's got enough meat on it so that you can maintain pretty good accuracy with this type of caliber, because a rifle with a really thin barrel is honestly more difficult to shoot accurately than the same rifle with a heavier barrel. So it's good that they actually put some extra meat on this. It's not too much. It's still not a brick, but I do like it. Now, could they have saved some weight by making this a pencil barrel? Could they have saved a pound, maybe? Maybe, possibly. But honestly, I don't think it's worth it on something like this. It's good to make sure that your barrel has plenty good accuracy. And like I said, because it's so short, the extra weight is much easier to manage. So I think it's a good compromise. And also with a heavier barrel like this, as you can see here, it can host a 5/8 by 24 thread for if you do want to run a suppressor on your rifle. And especially for a hunting rifle, something like this Surefire SOCOM 7.62 Mini would be a nice addition for something like this. Now, the barrel itself is chromoly steel, which is very strong, especially when temperatures start to get up, and it has really, really good anti-corrosive properties. So if you're out there sitting in the snow, the rain, wherever you take this thing, you're good. The action is Bergara's own B-14. It's basically a Remington 700 clone. It differs from an actual 700 because it's actually well made. Now, the action itself is also chromoly like the barrel, and it is made in Spain with the rest of the rifle. Since we're on the topic, I feel it worth mentioning the premier Bergaras will have stainless action, stainless barrel, and the action screws up top here are number 8 on the premier and the standard number 6 on the B-14. There is one little detail on this action that I do like a lot. Since it feeds from a hinged floor plate sort magazine, you have to thumb the rounds in from the top. And there's a little cutout right here. It was a pretty simple thing to design, simple to machine, but you know what? It makes a noticeable difference when loading this rifle's magazine. It makes it just that little bit easier, and it's a really nice thing that they put on there, so good job. Bolt knob. Big and chunky, I do like to see that. Makes it easier to operate with gloves or if you're trying to work it nice and quick. The trigger is Bergara's own performance trigger. It can go from 2.8 to 4.4 pounds. On the Premier Bergaras, you do get a trigger tech, but honestly, this trigger here is very, very nice. I honestly wouldn't worry about it. It's a good trigger, just leave it. The stock is fiberglass reinforced polymer, and it does have a steel bedding pillar system for the receiver, and it has a sort of nice, soft sort of texture to it. Barrel is also free floated because what isn't these days, and you do get one sling stud in the front and one for the back. Overall, this is a great whitetail rifle, especially for us Yanks here in the Northeast, but if you do some other hunting that is out to 300 or 400 yards, something like this would be a really, really good choice. They are guaranteed to shoot 1 MOA, but honestly, if you know what you're doing and you use good ammo, you can really about cut that in half. So they don't guarantee half, they guarantee 1, but these will shoot really, really well. Now, if you're going out west, you could probably do better with a longer barreled rifle and a bit more of a Magnum type cartridge, something like 300 Mag, 300 PRC, even 6.5 PRC. We've seen a lot of success with that at long range on medium to large game. So we do have other rifles in Bergara's lineup, but I'd say this one really excels at the typical whitetail and similar sort of hunting environments. I mean, a lot of that sort of hunting, you're in the woods, pretty hilly, so you don't get a lot of longer range shots, but even so, something like this, out to 300 or 400 yards on whitetail is a pretty safe bet. Can go further, but typical whitetail shots, pretty close range. Now, as far as getting an order for one of these things, we are really quick at getting these things turned around. So if we have a rifle in stock and the whole order is done by about 2 o'clock Eastern during the week, we can usually have it shipped out that same day. So make sure that the gun dealer that you want to ship to has their FFL to us in good time, and we can have it shipped out that same day. We do offer some overnight shipping if you need it quickly, so please get in touch with us should you need this in a hurry, and we can make it happen. So that'll do it for the Bergara B-14 Ridge SP. Please check it out on our site. We'll have a link in the description. Also check out their other rifles for the types of hunting that you'll be doing. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll see you next week.